Testing, yeah. No. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, we are ready to start. So, good morning, everybody. And we begin the day's program. We could just do 3 times the quick salutation to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, on the first day of the retreat, in the opening session, I explained that the meditation subjects that we will be doing in the practice of contemplation of the body have 2 main purposes. The first is to establish what we could call present moment awareness or present moment mindfulness. That is, through the practice of mindfulness, we root our attention in the present moment. And we use the first 2 or 3 types of practices in order to establish that present moment awareness. That is, we use the mindfulness of breathing by focusing on the breath as it's occurring in and out. We root the attention in the present moment of in and out breathing. Then with the walking meditation, we root our attention in each step that we're taking, and even in the different phases, 2 phases of each step. And then when we moved on to the full body awareness, then we were rooting the attention in the body itself in the present moment. And those practices serve primarily to develop some degree of a stronger mindfulness and some degree of concentration. Maybe not full samadhi, but to collect the mind, to collect the scattered mind, and keep it focused in the present, sharpening the beam of awareness. Now, those meditation subjects themselves can also be used for the second purpose of contemplation of the body, which is to know and understand the nature of the body. But we use those meditation techniques for the purpose of collecting the mind, developing greater calm and concentration. The next 3 meditation subjects we'll be taking over today and tomorrow are concerned more specifically, more expressly with knowing and understanding the nature of the body. And these 3 meditation subjects are the contemplation of the unattractive or impure nature of the body, the contemplation of the elements, the investigation of the body in terms of the 4 material elements. And then briefly on the last day we'll be taking up what I call the ultimate destination of the body. Okay, so now we're going to be starting this morning with the meditation on the unattractive nature of the body. This is called in Pali, sometimes it's called the subha sanya, the perception of unbeauty, of non-beauty, and sometimes patikula sanya, the perception of repulsiveness. And this, the purpose of this meditation is primarily to dispel the fascination and attachment to the body, to physical bodies, motivated by primarily by sensual lust. And we have to remember that the Buddha himself was a renunciant and taught the Dhamma for the purpose of ultimate renunciation, for breaking the bonds that tie us to the cycle of birth and death, samsara. And the primary driving force behind the cycle of birth and death is craving, tanha. And the Buddha says that there are three kinds of craving: the craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for annihilation. And among the types of sensual craving, the most powerful is the craving for sexual enjoyment, for sensual enjoyment, actually through all the senses, based upon the desire for sexual enjoyment. And so the reason that sexual lust and sensual lust continues to flow through the mind is because we have a perception of the body as beautiful, beautiful and attractive. And according to the Buddha's teaching, and the way we will see with the contemplation of the body, this beautiful and attractive impression of the body is just a kind of projection of the mind onto an illusion overlaying the body, a projection of the mind onto the superficial appearance of the body. And that is what sustains the sensual desire, particularly sexual lust, that drives the mind on over and over to seek sensual enjoyment in this present life. And when this life comes to an end, it's that same sensual craving that propels the stream of consciousness into a new existence in the sense sphere realm to renew the quest for sensual enjoyment. And so the practice of the Asubha Bhavana, the meditation on the unattractive nature of the body, pulls away this delusion of beauty that overlays the body and exposes the body's real nature. And this serves as a very powerful antidote to sensual lust and specifically to sexual desire. So we could say that sensual desire arises on the basis of the perception of the body, particularly the body of another person. In the case of heterosexual attraction, the body of a person of the opposite sex. In the case of homosexual attraction, the body of somebody of the same sex. That doesn't matter, but what's important is that it is the perception of bodily beauty that sparks off, that ignites the flames of sensual desire. And so the way this meditation works is by analyzing and investigating the body in terms of its constituents, its organs, its tissues, its fluids, and so on, looking at them under a microscope in detail in order to see that when you look at them closely and analytically, they're not really beautiful at all. And so when you put them all together to form a living organic body, then we understand that the body itself is not beautiful and attractive. And so the development of this perception of the unattractive nature of the body helps to turn the mind away from its obsession by sensual lust and move the mind in the direction of disenchantment, dispassion, and finally, liberation. Usually within the systems of classification of systems of Buddhist meditation, with the distinction between samatha and vipassana, tranquility and insight, the commentarial tradition puts the meditation on the unattractive nature of the body on the side of tranquility or samatha rather than vipassana or insight. And I think this is done because technically insight means seeing into the impermanent dukkha or painful or unsatisfactory and non-self nature of phenomena. And the unattractive nature of phenomena does not fall, the unattractive nature of the body does not fall amongst the three universal characteristics. And also this meditation, it's said, when you practice it, can lead to some degree of samadhi and even to the first jhana. But still, in my opinion, the Asubha Bhavana, the meditation on attractiveness, falls somewhere in between samatha and vipassana. On the one hand, it we could say it belongs to samatha because it brings collectedness of mind and concentration. But on the other hand, its main function is not simply to calm and concentrate the mind, but to see into the real nature of the body. So in that way, we could say it leans towards vipassana, though technically, because it's concerned with dispelling the appearance of beauty with the reality of the unbeautiful nature, it doesn't come under the three characteristics, impermanence, dukkha, and non-self, that are the domain of vipassana, of insight meditation. Okay, let us now see how we're going to practice the Asubha Bhavana, meditation on the unattractive nature of the body. Hmm. This is what I want. I think I'm going to have to share the screen, and then I have to blow this up. Okay, is the screen shared? Okay. Okay,
Yes,
so,
Bhante.
excuse me?
I was just saying, Bhante, yes, we can see the share.
Okay, okay. So the way this meditation is practiced is by taking 32 parts of the body, and then for the purpose of contemplation, these parts are divided into certain groups that we go through in direct order, reverse order, then direct order again and then into the next group. And so we have hairs of the head. First, I'll just enumerate them in the groups. So the first group is hairs of the head. then hairs of the body, nails, including fingernails and toenails, teeth, and skin. So that's the first group. Then the second group, we have 4 internal items. So these first 5 items are all the outside of the body that we see. So when we look at another person, no matter how beautiful or handsome they might be, you ask yourself, what are you actually seeing? And what you see with your eyes is the person's hair on their head. If they have a beard or mustache or sideburns, you see hairs of the body. If you look at the hands and toe and feet, you might see fingernails and toes. If they smile, you will see teeth, and externally you'll see skin. Maybe also you'll see the eyes. In fact, usually in the case of sexual attraction, it's the eyes that have the greatest appeal, that sort of flash of delight in the eyes. Okay, so we have these 5 external parts. Then we move to the inside, where we have the muscles or flesh, the sinews, which include the tendons. The tendons, it's a kind of tissue that holds the muscles and bones together, and the ligaments of what holds the bones together. Then we have the bones and bone marrow. Then we come to the first group of internal organs: kidneys, heart, liver, the diaphragm, the spleen, and the lungs. Then another group, internal group, the intestines, which is large and small intestine, mesentery, which is a tissue that binds the small intestines to the holds the small intestines in place. Then the stomach, then the fecal matter or feces, which is building up in um, in the rectum, and then the brain. And the reason the brain comes after the fecal matter is because in the original list in the suttas, the brain was not mentioned. And so the brain was added in texts of a later period. And so they put it amongst the solid parts of the body, they put it at the end. So that's why it follows the fecal matter. Then with the next group, we come to liquid components of the body. So these are bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, and fat form the first group. Then the second group is tears, the grease or oil of the skin, saliva, snot or nasal mucus, then the fluid of the joints, and urine. So that's the listing. And I'll guide you as we do the meditation, as we go through them. I will be guiding you through them. But first, I want you to get acquainted with what these parts look like. And so I've arranged them numerically so that we could go through. Mm. Okay, so here we have the skin. Even though we use this one word skin and take it to be a kind of uniform substance, but you can see the skin is actually quite complex. You know, I'm not giving a lesson in anatomy here, so I'm not going to explain the different aspects of the skin, but it's just sufficient for you to get a visual impression of what the skin looks like close up. And you could see the hairs growing through the skin, emerging from hair follicles. And then there's a layer of fat, which is another one of the components, the liquid components of the body. So there's a layer of fat here. Okay, so this is skin. And then when we penetrate beneath the skin, we come to muscles or flesh. So here you can see the muscular structure of the body. When you see the anatomical picture, it looks rather sanitized, but if you want to know what the flesh actually looks like, you can imagine like a sirloin steak, not cooked, but raw sirloin steak. And then you cut through that slice of sirloin steak and you look at the texture of the flesh. That is actually muscle. And the muscle of the human body doesn't look so much different from the muscle of the cow that's been cut into sirloin steak or tenderloin steak, whatever. And so we're going to be able to look at the body entirely as composed of muscles. Okay, now we take the what's called the sinews, which includes the tendon that binds muscle. This is muscle, binds the muscle to the bone, and the ligaments that hold the bones together, binds one bone to another. And then we have, the skeleton. And this will play a very important role in our contemplation, in our practices, for both the meditation on the parts of the body and for the four elements meditation. So we could see the skeleton. And you have to remember all the time when we're looking at these components, these structures, that this is in our own body. The skeleton is not just there in the picture, but this body itself is really, it's built up on the structure, the scaffolding of the skeleton. So you have front view and back view. Now we're moving into the internal organs. So this is a back view, which has I take the back view first because amongst the internal organs, the first are the kidneys. So you see here the left kidney and the right kidney. They seem to be on the opposite side because we're looking at the body from the back. So we have the two kidneys. And also in this diagram, we could see the spleen, which shows up more clearly in the back view than in the front view. So this is a female body and kidneys and spleen. For the other organs, we go to this diagram. And here we have the heart is indicated here, but the heart apparently it's covered over by some kind of tissue, so you don't get a very good view of the heart. So we have the heart, and I'm taking them in the order in which we encounter them in the list. The heart, then the liver, which is divided into two sections, then the diaphragm separating the thorax, the upper part of the chest from the abdomen, the diaphragm here. Then we would take the spleen, which you could just see it's sticking out over here where I have the pointer, and then the lungs, the two lungs. Each with its lobes. Okay, so then going beneath the diaphragm, then we come to the intestines, the large intestine, coming up, going across, then descending down to the rectum, and then the small intestine, The mesentery we'll have to see in another diagram. And then we have the stomach here. To get the brain, we need, we have that in another diagram. Okay, this diagram shows us the transverse section of the heart. You see it's divided into a number of chambers. And just to run through the other parts again, we have the heart, liver, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, and lungs. Then we have the large intestines. And then this one doesn't show the small intestines, but this shows the mesentery, the tissue that holds the small intestines in place. So try to get visual impressions of all of these organs, because that's going to be used in our practice. And then we have the brain, very complex organ. Then this is useful. This shows us the internal organs of the body superimposed on each other. Shows them all in place. So we see the skin on the outside, then we cut away the skin, then we see the internal organs all on the inside. Yeah, then this was the most useful one, because this again shows them all superimposed on each other. How do I increase this? Yeah, this shows them all together. So here we've removed the skin, and now you have the muscles, then you have the bones, and then you have beneath the skeleton, you have the internal organs. You could see here clearly the lungs. This is probably the liver, the stomach, the spleen, the large intestine, the small intestine. Then it goes down further to the bladder, but the bladder is not included amongst the parts. Okay, so that concludes our survey of the parts of the body. And now we're going to start a session of practice. But before we actually start the session of practice, let's just get up and do a couple of minutes of bending and stretching before we return to our seats so that we're more alert when we start the meditation. And this will be a guided meditation, so I will take you on a tour of the parts of the body in the traditional sequence. Okay, so let's do a few minutes of bending and stretching. You don't have to do exactly whatever exercise you like. Okay, so let us take our preferred sitting position. Maybe you could keep one light on because it's very dark now. Yeah, that's good. Okay, first establish mindfulness in the body, taking in a kind of totalistic sense of the body. And you could do a few quick body scans from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet. Not the slow scan, but the quick sweeps of the body. And then let the body rest for about a minute or so in the full body awareness. Okay, now we're going to undertake the practice of asubha sanya, the contemplation of the unattractive nature of the body. And so we each examine our own bodies from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet, from the soles of the feet up to the top of the head, bounded by skin, the body that appears to be beautiful and attractive, that we cherish so much. But now we're going to examine it analytically. So we find in this very body hairs of the head. And when I mention each part, just dwell for a moment or so on each part, trying to get a clear image of that part or a sense of that part. So we have hairs of the head, hairs of the body, the whiskers, hair under the armpits, maybe hair on the chest or belly, pubic hairs, hairs of the legs. So body hairs, nails, fingernails and toenails, teeth. Maybe when the other person flashes a smile at us, the teeth look so beautiful and attractive. But if you take out the teeth and lay them out on a table, nothing very beautiful and attractive in the teeth. And skin. And we saw what the skin looks like close up. Okay, now I go backwards. Skin, teeth, nails, finger and toenails, hairs of the body, hairs of the head. Then in direct order, in this very body, there are hairs of the head, hairs of the body, nails, teeth, skin. Okay, now we probe beneath the skin. We find muscles. You could quickly scan the body from the top down to get a sense of the muscles, the muscular structure. So muscles, sinews, binding the muscles and bones together. Bones, and again, you could sort of scan the body quickly to get an image of the skeleton. Bone marrow, bone marrow, kind of soft substance inside the bones. Okay, now we go in reverse. Bone marrow, bones fit together into a skeleton. The sinews binding the bones together and the muscles to the bones. And muscles, the flesh. In this body, there are muscles, sinews, bones, bone marrow. Now we go to the internal organs. In this very body, my own body, I say, is mine. There are kidneys, 2 kidneys. There's the heart pumping constantly. There is the liver. Yeah, I put up the diagram of the body. So when I mention a pot, no harm if you open your eyes to look at the diagram. Okay, so we have the liver, the diaphragm, the spleen, the lungs, all in this very body. In this body, there are the two lungs, spleen, diaphragm, liver, heart, kidneys, then in forward order, kidneys, heart, heart beating constantly day and night, liver, a large organ beneath the diaphragm. Then there's the diaphragm, spleen, and lungs. Now we go to the next group. In this body, there are the intestines, large intestine, and the small intestines coiled up in the abdomen. There's mesentery, holding the small intestines in place. There is the stomach, there is feces, the accumulation of feces from the undigested foods. And in the skull cavity, there is the brain. Okay, there is the brain, feces, stomach, mesentery, small intestines and large intestines, all right here in this very body. In this body, there are the intestines, large intestines, small intestines. There is mesentery. There is the stomach. There is feces. And the brain. All in this very body. Now we go to the fluids of the body. These are in two groups. In this body, there is bile, kind of yellow-greenish liquid produced by the liver that helps them to digest the fats. So there is bile, phlegm, pus forming when there is wounds. There is blood throughout the whole body, running through the arteries, the capillaries, and the veins. So blood, and sweat, and fat, deposits of fat floating through the bloodstream. So in this body, there is fat, sweat, blood, pus, phlegm, bile, In this body, there is bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, and fat. Okay, now into the next group. In this body, there are tears. Even when we're not crying, there's a kind of film of tears covering the eyes. There's the grease of the skin. Saliva. Nasal mucus or snot. Fluid of the joints. The fluid that enables us to bend the limbs without pain. And urine. Urine constantly accumulating in the bladder. So we have urine, fluid of the joints, nasal mucus or snot, saliva, grease of the skin, and tears. In this body, there are tears, grease of the skin, saliva, nasal mucus, fluid of the joints, and urine. And then again, we take this body in its totality as a whole, and we see that in this body, from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet, from the soles of the feet up to the top of the head, bounded by skin, we find these 32 components, these organs, tissues, and fluids. Such is the nature of this very body, the body that I call mind. And such is the nature of every other human body. So as I am, so all the others are, composite of skin, muscles, tissues, organs, and fluids. Okay, now settle back into the felt sense of the body as a whole. And we do a few minutes just of mindfulness of breathing. Okay, now when you feel ready, you can open the eyes and relax the position. Okay, now we're going to do a period of walking meditation, but the instructions now will be different from the previous instructions. Now we're still going to be walking slowly, with taking one step after another, but we're not going to be focusing on looking at each step and at the contact of the foot against the ground, but rather as you walk slowly back and forth in your walkway, in your walking path, you're going to be focusing upon the body that's walking as a composite of muscles and the skeleton. Or we could say that it's a skeleton covered by a plastering of muscles that is walking back and forth. So you're going to be applying in a simplified way the asubha, the parts of the body, to the walking meditation. So as you're taking each step, of course you're doing it slowly and mindfully, but you're seeing the body as the skeleton covered by muscles and skin that is doing the walking. Okay, so we'll do about a half an hour of a walking, and let's see what time it is now. So we'll give it 33 minutes. So be back in your seat by 10:40 and try to build up a strong momentum of perceiving the nature of the body as in terms of the skeleton and the muscles. And maybe you could also see the muscles and the skeleton held together by the sinews. You could choose whichever way works most effectively. If bringing in the sinews is too complex, discard it and just keep the skeleton and the muscles. Okay, so let us start the walking. Is the screen shared? Okay, let me.
Bante, I don't see anything. Do you want
Okay.
to share something?
Yeah, I wanted to share the screen.
Now it's being shared.
But what do you see?
Yeah, I don't see the entire document. I see the very top of the tab.
Hmm. Do you see the diagram? Okay.
I do now, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this open while we're going through the parts of the body, just so you can get a kind of totalistic impression of the parts of the body. Or maybe it's better to use the other diagram that shows. Yeah, this one may be better. Do you see that? It's
Yes, Bante.
okay. So it shows all of the parts labeled, designated. Okay, so that's just so that you could glance at this occasionally if you want to sort of refresh your memory of what the parts looks like. Okay, we're going to go through another round. Okay, so take your convenient and congenial meditation position. And then settle into the full body awareness. And then you can do a few quick scans of the body. Okay, so we are going to be practicing the contemplation of the body, the exercise known as the Asubha Sanya, the perception of the inherently unbeautiful or unattractive nature of the body. And so we practice this on our own bodies, and we reflect back on our body from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet, from the soles of the feet up to the top of the head, bounded by skin. And we're going to reflect on this body and see what is found within this body. So in this body, there are hairs of the head, hairs of the body, nails, fingernails, and toenails, teeth, 2 rows of teeth, and skin enveloping the entire body, skin with multiple layers, the epidermis or outer layer, the inner layer of skin. Okay, then reverse. In this body, there is skin, teeth, nails, body hairs, hairs of the head, hairs of the head, hairs of the body, nails, teeth, skin. And we go beneath the skin. There's muscles, sinews, bones, Bones join to form the skeleton. And I'm showing the skeleton on screen if you want to get the visual image. And then bone marrow inside the bones. In this body, there is bone marrow, bones joined, forming the skeleton. There are sinews joining the bones and the muscles and the bones to each other. And there is muscle or flesh. In this body, there are muscles, sinews, bones, and bone marrow. Then there are the internal organs. In this body, there are the kidneys, the heart, the liver, the diaphragm, the spleen, and the lungs. There are lungs, spleen, diaphragm, liver, heart, and kidneys. Kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, and lungs. There are the intestines, large intestine and small intestine. There's the stomach, there's mesentery, stomach, feces, and brain. There's the brain, feces, stomach, mesentery, and intestines, large intestine and small intestines. There are, in this body, there are the intestines, large intestine, small intestine. There's mesentery, stomach, feces, and brain. Now we go to the bodily fluids. In this body, there is bile produced by the liver, and the excess is stored in the gallbladder. There's phlegm There's pus formed when there are wounds. Blood running through the entire body. There's sweat and fat. In this body, there is fat, sweat, blood, pus, phlegm, and bile. There's bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, and fat. In this body, there are tears over the eyes. There's skin grease, saliva, nasal mucus, fluid of the joints, and urine. There's urine, fluid of the joints, nasal mucus, saliva, skin grease, tears, there's tears, skin grease, saliva, nasal mucus, fluid of the joints, and urine. Such is the nature of this body. And from the top of the head down to the soles of the feet, from the soles of the feet up to the top of the head, enclosed in skin, there are many unbeautiful, unattractive, even repulsive components. Okay, we have 10 more minutes for this session. What I suggest we do, instead of going through the full list, I've put up an image on the screen showing the different components sort of superimposed on each other. You can take this image, which shows the muscles on the outer layer, then the bones, the skeleton, seen through the muscles, and then the inner organs, especially prominent, the lungs, the liver, the stomach, the intestines. Get a mental image of this picture and then keep on imposing or superimposing it back onto your own body or projecting it onto your own body, reflecting my body too is of the same nature. So just continue like this. on your own for about 9 minutes till the session is finished. You could take the individual components here, the muscles, the skeleton, some of the organs, and then reflect, my body too is of the same nature. Okay, continue on your own. Okay, now you drop all mentally constructed images and thoughts. Come back to the immediate felt sense of your body in the present. Take a few deep mindful breaths in and out, in and out. And you can relax your posture and mindfully open your eyes. And we end the session in the usual way with rubbing the palms together and palms over the face. Top of the head, back of the neck, then down the lower back to the buttocks, and then massage that area to stimulate the circulation. Then from the buttocks come to the knees and massage the knees. And then if you've been sitting on a mat, then come down to the feet and massage the feet. And now we'll break for the midday meal, those of us on the East Coast. And remember, during the interval, we'll come back for the next session at 2 p.m. And during the interval, remember to always try to maintain mindfulness and clear comprehension. To the best of your ability, avoid getting sort of involved in conversations and discussions. Hopefully, your family members will understand. And if you want to take, well, if you have better weather than we have here, if you could take a walk outside, being mindful of your steps. And even if you want to take a little nap, you can, but just 15 or 20 minutes, okay? Not longer, because then if you fall into a deep sleep, then the mind gets muddled. Okay, so we will end with 3 half bows to the Buddha, and then we'll break for the meal. First bow, second bow, third bow.
Thank you, Bante. Sadhu,
Thank you,
sadhu.
Bante.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Bante.
Sadhu,
Buddha.
sadhu.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bante.
Bante.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you.
Yelling, thank you, Bante, is really.
Thank you, Bante.